welcome to Finance2Explore. My name is Jonah Cedar. Today we're going to talk about how to write a standout scholarship essay by me walking you through one of my own scholarship essays that I wrote in order to study abroad in Iceland. But before we get into that, I actually want to go over a few things to consider before you even sit down to write that scholarship essay. The first thing is do your research. And I say this from a few different perspectives. One being that your time is really valuable. At least I hope you feel that way. And if you don't feel that way, I'm here to tell you it is. It is really valuable. And there are so many scholarships out there that are available. And it's very possible, depending on how large the applicant pool is, how competitive the scholarship is, how competitive the students are applying for the scholarship are, that you could apply for a dozen scholarships and only get one out of those dozens. And so you want to be sure that you're finding the best scholarships that are tailored to your abilities, your skill set, and you as a person and as a student. Okay? So where do you look for those? Where do you find those? Well, if you're a college student looking to study abroad, chances are there are so many scholarships on your campus available to you, even if the university is not necessarily doing a great job at marketing those to you. Okay, so if you don't know what scholarship options are available to you on campus, go to your professors, go to your academic advisor, go to your career office, go to your office of overseas study if you have one. Because those are the people that are going to be able to direct you to the appropriate scholarships. And again, they're probably going to have a lot of options, and they're going to be really eager to get you to those scholarships because there are a lot of students like yourself and like me when I was back in high school and at the beginning of my college career thinking, oh, well, a lot of people are probably going to apply for this scholarship. So why would I waste my time and apply? Because chances are I'm probably not going to get it. Well, a lot of students think that way, which is why they don't apply. So, at a university, at mine, for example, my university has over 50,000 students who attend there. And there might be a study abroad scholarship that maybe 50 people apply for out of 50,000 just because nobody thinks they can get it, or they might not, again, know that it even exists. So do that research, talk to the people who are on your campus. That's part of what your tuition dollars give you the opportunity to have access to. Not using those resources that are right on your campus would be like being an American paying taxes and then not voting come election day. It doesn't make any sense. So just use what you have, and you're going to find a lot of really great options that are available to you. But of course, there's also outside options. For study abroad, there's the Benjamin A. Gilman Scholarship, the Fulbright Scholarship, the Boren Awards Association. You can also go to gooverseas.com. They have a lot of really great study abroad and gap year scholarships available. And if you're a gap year student, not quite at college yet, the best source for gap year scholarships, I would say, is the Gap Year Association, because they have a whole database worth of outside sources for scholarships, but also programs within the gap year industry that offer scholarships to their students, which is quite a few. So you just want to make sure that you're doing that research and finding what's available to you, so that when you're actually sitting down to write all these scholarships, you have the ones that are going to be your best chance to get funding, that you're going to be eligible for, and that you have enough time to actually sit down and write before those scholarships are actually due. So the other reason that you want to do research is because whether it seems like it or not, you are selling to these programs or providers or companies that are offering this scholarship to you. They're willing to give you money to have this experience that they're also offering. And so they want to make sure that you're a worthwhile candidate, right? And if selling is something that intimidates you, think about it this way. Everything that we do on a day-to-day basis is sales, whether you realize it or not. And the best example I can give for that is social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Reddit. whatever else the kids are using these days. When you put a post, let's say Instagram, for example, you put a picture on Instagram, you put a caption below it, you're writing a comment, you're putting something in your story, you might be sharing another person's post. There is always intention behind what exactly you're uploading because you want people to like it, right? You want people to follow you. You want people to share that post, right? So instead of selling a product in exchange for money, you are selling some type of experience through social media that you are then getting likes for and followers for and praise or whatever for. And that is sales. When you have a conversation with somebody, whether it's a friend, a parent, a girlfriend or boyfriend, you are selling yourself to those people. Okay, and the same thing applies for the scholarship essay, which is why when you do research, you're not just researching what scholarship options are available to you, but you're researching the company, organization, program, whatever it may be, that is offering that scholarship, right? Because you want to make sure that no matter what the prompt is, whether it's a generic prompt or it's some prompt that's specific to that particular company, you want to make sure that you're tailoring your answer in your scholarship essay to the values of that company. The same is true for if you're writing a resume or cover letter, right? You're not going to write one generic resume or cover letter and then send it to a lot of different employers. At least I hope you're not going to do that, because that is definitely the wrong thing to do. Okay, you want to be sure that you're tailoring your resume and cover letter to what the employer you're applying to is looking for in an applicant. Okay, so researching the mission of the organization, researching the people that the organization hires, even researching past applicants who have won the scholarship to see what qualities they have, or even if they've shared their scholarship submission, what exactly kinds of things that they wrote, or what kind of mood it had, or tone, or what kind of person that applicant was, so you know whether or not you're going to be in a great position when you actually do apply for that scholarship yourself. Now, another source for finding scholarships is Exploration Ed. Every Friday and Saturday on our social media, we do post new scholarships. Friday on our Instagram, Saturday on our Facebook. So for both study abroad and gap year. So if you want to be in the know, just follow us on Instagram or Facebook. So the second thing to consider before you sit down and write your scholarship essay is to be concise. Now, I'm sure you're aware, but most generic scholarships tend to be about 500 to 750 words, which if you get very passionate about writing, like I do, 500 to 750 words goes by really, really fast. And in some cases, it's even only 250 words, which is just insane. Now, the advantage to that is that in many creative ventures, less does tend to be more. So you have a little bit more of a creative space to actually get to the point and get your point across without having to add all this mumbo jumbo into it and making that part of the story. And the other advantage to having to be concise is that you can avoid being generic on your scholarship essay. So if part of the question is, oh, why do you want to go to Iceland to study abroad? I'm not just going to say, oh, well, I like puffins. Puffins are in Iceland. It's known for being a great place for outdoor adventurers, and I like to adventure in the outdoors, so it seems like a really great place. That's everybody wants to do those two things, right? That's kind of a generic answer. Or, if you say, oh, well, I want to explore new cultures, I want to learn a new language, and that's where you leave it, and that's all you say, that's pretty generic. That's not any different than really anybody else who wants to travel. Again, they want to know why you specifically stand out as a candidate, right, for this scholarship. So you want to try to be as compelling in that short amount of time as you possibly can and tell a story, which I know seems really daunting when I just say it right now, which is why we're going to go over it later with my actual scholarship essay that I've written in the past. The third way to be sure that you're really standing out on your scholarship essay is the recommendation letter. Now, most scholarships are going to require that you have a letter of recommendation from somebody in your life that can speak to your ambition, your ability as a student, your skill set, your motivation, your goals and aspirations. And you want this to be a professor or a former employer or somebody who you've maybe volunteered with in the past, somebody who you've traveled with in the past that can speak to not only what you've provided for them in their class or in their project or in their business, but also what you will then bring to the table as a part of your program, right? Because that's a big part of what the people who are going to give you the scholarship are really looking for. They're not only looking for what you've done in the past, what your experience is coming in, but they're looking at your future goals and ambitions and how going on this study abroad experience or going on this gap year experience is going to augment your ability to achieve those goals and ambitions. Also, how you're going to augment that whole experience for not only you, but also your peers who are going to be on the program with you. Okay? So now let's actually sit down and I'll walk you through my own personal scholarship essay. Right. So here is the essay that I wrote in order to try and get a scholarship to study abroad in Iceland. Now, the first thing I'll say is I'm showing this to you, but I want to make it clear that I'm not showing this to you because I believe that I'm a fantastic writer or that you have to necessarily follow this structure the same or even, word for word in some cases. I'm definitely not the best writer in the world. I'm just showing this to you as an example because this essay did get me the scholarship that I was trying to get in order to study abroad in Iceland. And so I thought it would be useful for you to see an example of what a successful scholarship essay looks like, and why I wrote it in this fashion that I wrote it in. So it's broken up into 3 parts, essentially, answering a few different questions. So I don't remember what the questions were exactly, but this is sort of what they were. Why do you want to study abroad in Iceland? How does it pertain to your academic and personal goals? And what experiences do you have that would contribute to your peers and the program? Okay, so in this first paragraph here, I'm I'm talking about, well, I'll just read it. I'm just going to read it for you, okay? So I chose to study as part of the 2019 Iceland trip because of the rich abundance of untouched natural resources and geological formations. From the midnight sun to the greener than green and bluer than blue views, Iceland seems like one of the most beautiful places on the planet that would satisfy any adventure traveler's bucket list. As far as my academic goals, I am a sustainability major and education minor. On the sustainability side of things, Iceland is in a unique situation in an era where climate change is making it a necessity for countries to adopt sustainable energy practices. Currently, Iceland's electricity consumption comes 100% from renewable energy, with 9 out of 10 homes using specifically geothermal. Its northern location between the North American and Eurasian tectonic plates makes it a very active volcanic zone to power geothermal systems. In addition, glaciers cover 11% of the country. Seasonal melt feeds glacial rivers, which run from mountains to the sea, contributing to Iceland's hydropower resources. I feel much can be learned from their use of renewable resources, as well as their push to preserve their special place on Earth, growing adversity of tourism. Okay, so in this first paragraph, of course, obviously I'm answering why I decided to go on this particular study abroad program in just a couple, impactful sentences. But also, I'm sure as you can tell from me reading that to you and you maybe reading some words on your own as I have it up on the screen here, is that I did my research on Iceland beforehand, right? I knew it was a study abroad program. I knew it was academic. I wanted to make sure that I
had the facts straight about Iceland as a country and how it pertained to my major specifically of sustainability, which is why I added, the thing about Iceland's electricity consumption and how much of that comes from renewable energy, and talking about the hydropower and geothermal and Iceland's specific geographical location in the world that allows it to be in the circumstance that it is pertaining to renewable resources. Okay, so I wasn't just coming from a generic situation where I might just be saying, oh, I chose to study in Iceland because I think it's a cool destination. I want to be involved in a different culture. I want to see a glacier because I think that would be impactful for me as a sustainability major. Those are all kind of generic things, right? And they're not very impactful to the reader. It's like I mentioned sales earlier, right? And you can tell when you're talking to a bad salesman or a salesman with malintent, right? Because they don't care. They're not really trying to genuinely sell you on the product because they care about it, right? They just care about that end result, the money. You don't want to write it showing that you care about care just about the travel aspect, which you might, but you want to really show that this is going to give something to you and that you're going to be able to contribute something to it, and showing that you did the research and that you put the research in your scholarship essay is going to show the people reading it that you do actually care about not only what that destination has to offer, but how it's going to augment your studies in whatever your major happens to be. Okay, so let's go to the next paragraph here. So in terms of my personal goals, one thing I want to mention too, just before I get into this, because the first paragraph mentions my major is still sustainability, but I do not minor in education. So some of this is going to be outdated because I wrote this probably about a year and a half ago. So things have changed since then, just as a disclaimer there. All right, let's get back into this. So in terms of my personal goals, I like to think of a fascinating comparison between education and cartography by novelist John Green. Cartography is the practice of drawing maps, and what is unique about cartography is that we get to shape our image of the world instead of the image of the world shaping how we perceive it. He describes the process of cartography as finding land to draw, and once you find that, wanting to find more land to draw. He compares this to learning by saying that maps do not show you where you will go, but they show you where you might go. In relation to education, what you learn in school provides you with more opportunity for places to explore on the map. In other words, it opens up the view of the world. It creates a ticket that allows you to travel to more places. So as learning in the classroom lets you visit more places intellectually, travel allows you to explore more places on the map spiritually. When I have traveled in the past, and as I continue to travel, I have gained a greater desire to learn about the world around me. I have gained a level of understanding about the world around me, and I have been challenged to learn more about myself and grow as a result. In the long term, I have started and continue to develop a nonprofit organization called Exploration Ed, no longer a nonprofit. My goal with this nonprofit is to foster a generation filled with empathetic, passionate, and creative people by providing a program, also not really a program, for young people to explore the world around them in order to discover their place in it. In order to do this effectively, I must continue to enrich and expand my own worldview in order to teach it to others. Okay, so let's go back. So again, also, as I mentioned, kind of a bit out of date as Exploration Ed has evolved past what Jonah from a year and a half ago envisioned. But in this part of the scholarship essay, I'm talking about how this pertains to me personally, right? And when I get into this part, I'm telling a story, right? I'm using an example of a story that impacted me. I'm a big fan of TED Talks, and I watched and John Green, and I watched a TED Talk delivered by John Green, and he talked about this concept of cartography and linking it to education, and it was so fascinating to me, and it really resonated with me because deeper into that talk, he kind of talks about how for him and his experience, he felt like education was just a hurdle to get into adulthood rather than something that would enrich his life more than he ever thought possible. And I related to that because that's how I felt going through high school. And after I had my experience traveling, even before this study abroad experience, early on my gap time, I started to see that shift of learning just for the sake of learning and having my curiosity back. And I wanted to keep exploring that. So I was coming from a place of genuine impact and curiosity and yearning to explore more, right? So I'm using, and this is always a great way to tell a story, right? I'm using an example of something and I'm expanding it out and then connecting it to back to the prompt that I'm trying to address, right? Saying how travel has impacted me so far and how, I think it will continue to impact me further. Now, if you're a gap year student or someone looking to go on a study abroad, and you might be thinking, well, I really don't have a lot of travel experience is what I'm trying to get. Think about, and it might be tough, right? It's always tough to ask somebody, and it's why I don't like doing it, what their expectations are, what they envision for, for the future, however long it is down the road, because environments change, people change, and what my values were and goals were 4 years ago is drastically different than what my goals and ambitions are now. But it would be useful, though, still to think just in this moment, in this time in your life, when you envision the end of your gap year, or you've just had an amazing year or 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, however long it is, 2 weeks, however long that experience ends up being for you, what have you gained from that time? Or what will you have hoped to gain? How do you want to change as a person? What kinds of things do you want to experience? If you have the time for it and it's appropriate for the prompt, this is the place to address that, okay? To tell the person reading that, this is what I'm hoping to get out of this, rather than what I did saying, this is what I have gotten out of this type of experience, okay? So then in this last part of the essay, I'm telling the reader how I'm going to contribute to my peers on this study abroad experience and how I'm going to contribute to the program, okay? So what has my past experience been? How am I going to bring that here? And by the way, I forgot to mention, but one thing too that I think a lot of readers of your scholarship essay, people who are going to decide whether or not you get that scholarship we're looking for, is not only how this experience, gap year, study abroad, is going to impact your academics or impact your future career, as I mentioned in here, but also how you're going to use that experience to better your situation back at home, how you're going to give back to your community as a result, how you're going to be sure that your experiences and the things that you learned carry with you throughout the rest of your life, right? And that relates to a great Ralph Waldo Emerson quote about travel that I really, really appreciate, which is, though we travel the world over to find the beautiful, we must carry it with us or we find it not. And that's what that's what you want to try and include in your scholarship essay, is how you're going to be sure that those experiences carry on with you even post the study abroad or gap year experience. So let's read this last little bit here. I have quite a bit of experience that would allow me to positively contribute to this study abroad program. I took a 17-day tour of Western Europe when I was 19 with a large group of other high school and college students. The same year, I went to Austin, Texas for a week to build homes with Habitat for Humanity. This last summer, I took a 3-week-long road trip from South Bend to San Francisco and back, and this November, I will be traveling to Costa Rica to work on a sea turtle conservation project. I love meeting and connecting with new people. I love the challenge and possibility of being in a new area and having new experiences. I have strong communication and leadership skills, and I'm extremely passionate about ecotourism and learning. There's a quote by a poet named Mary Oliver that states, "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" I intend to live mine full of passion, love, and experiences. If allowed to attend Iceland in 2019, my time will be dedicated to ensuring that I, as well as my peers alongside me, do just that. Okay, so this paragraph essentially in this essay was sort of like a condensed resume for this experience, right? I'm saying this is the travel experience I've already had, which not only tells them that I'm used to being a traveler, but, building homes with Habitat for Humanity, going on a road trip with friends, volunteering in Costa Rica. It shows that I've traveled with people before. I can be adaptable. I can work on projects abroad okay. And then I tied it all together at the end with a quote that really mattered to me. And again, what you choose to do with whatever your prompt is going to be unique to you, right? I didn't show this to you expecting that you were going to exactly copy it, which hopefully you wouldn't do anyway, unless you're going on a study abroad trip to Iceland. But my hope is not that you would mimic the way in which I wrote this, but that you may be able to find certain ingredients in the overall recipe that you like, and cut out the things that you don't like. Because I think that's the case anytime when somebody gives you advice or points you to a specific resource. Just because it worked well for me doesn't mean it's going to work well 100% for you, and vice versa. But I do hope that you did get something really, really useful out of this, and that you are going to feel more confident when you sit down and write your own scholarship essay, having this template to follow.